Hi everyone, and welcome to the LEGO Camden Yards update for April of 2016. Very excited for the first video of the new baseball season. Opening day is right around the corner. We've got a ton of Orioles stuff to talk about in this update, but before I do any of that, I do have a quick house cleaning item, if you want to even call it that. Personal news, I guess, really. For those of you who didn't catch the update when I put the little LEGO minifig update out there, my wife is pregnant. We are expecting twins in May, and I'm super excited to be a dad. These are going to be our first and actually second children, so couldn't be any more excited about that. But in addition to making that announcement, if you haven't already seen the video, I also wanted to talk about it because what does that mean for LEGO Camden Yards? Am I going to completely put the project on hold? Am I going to try and find a different way to set it up? As we've talked about in other videos, the agreement was always I can use the dining room table as long as I can clean it up in time and get it off the table for company coming over or whatever. But so obviously babies kind of change that a little bit. You know, can't have small pieces around babies. They just don't mix, small pieces and babies. So what the plan, at least for now, is I've talked it over with Jackie. I've gotten permission, if you want to call it that. It was really more me telling her than instead of asking. But I think it only works because it makes sense. So for the 2016 season, I am still going to use the dining room table. The kids are not going to be born until May. By the time they start moving around 6 months or so, baseball season will probably be over. I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully the Orioles go well into October and maybe even into November playing baseball this year because we're counting on a World Series win. But anyway, so just wanted to throw that out there. Looking ahead to like the 2017 season, I'll have to figure that out, but really not an immediate concern at this point. So figure it out when cross that bridge when we get there. So what else is going on? All right, let's talk a little bit about the Orioles offseason. If you've been following these videos closely, the last Camden Yards video I did, I actually broke down the entire thing, packed it away in some Sterilite cases, and as I was doing that, I mentioned, you know, some of the things that were going on in baseball, and actually it got into a little bit of football stuff. Apologize for that, for your baseball purists. I got into a little bit of football conversation. But anyway, two things I mentioned. First, Matt Wieters. Second, Chris Davis. I'm shocked and stoked. I couldn't be more excited. Obviously, they paid a ton of money to Chris Davis to keep him around. In fact, if you haven't looked at the specifics of the contract, you should really go check that out. He's actually going to be making at least $1 million off of the Orioles until the time he's like 39 or 40 years old. So he'll be sitting on the couch at home just earning $1 million paycheck. So that's good for him. And like I said, I'm a big Chris Davis fan, so I'm happy he's back. Hopefully the Orioles don't end up in a similar situation like the Mets did a few years ago with, I can't think of the player's name at the time, at the moment. But anyway, so you get the point. I'm excited. Matt Wieters is back. Chris Davis is back. Awesome. Let's get into some new faces. Yovani Gallardo. Didn't really know a ton about him. He's a National League pitcher, or was a National League pitcher. So I did some quick research just because I always like to know these things. I actually work with a guy who's a Cardinals fan, and if I didn't look into this ahead of time, he would kill me with the stats on his own. So I did a little bit of my homework prior to work that day. And so he's made roughly 30 starts a year on average. Roughly 180 to 200 innings. That's pretty good. That puts him right up there with Chris Tillman. And I know it's weird. Some of you non-Orioles fans are probably going, "Ha, Chris Tillman." But you know, say what you will about Chris Tillman, he's been extremely consistent. Again, 30 starts a year, 180 to 200 innings. Granted, you know, he probably walks a lot. You know, probably doesn't strike out as many guys as he should. But he's been a model of consistency, which I appreciate. So it looks like Yovani Gallardo fits kind of in that same mold of you know what you're going to get every fifth day, and I'm excited about that. I think we can count on him. Maybe 10 to 15 wins, and if both him and Tillman have pretty good seasons, I'm not saying they need to be Cy Young quality seasons. If they can both get around 10 to 15 wins this year and then patchwork some wins with the bullpen, I think they're going to be in really good shape. So I'm excited about that signing. Shortly after that, the whole Dexter Fowler mess happened. I don't know if any of you pay that close attention to baseball, but essentially this guy walked away from a $15.8 million contract with the Cubs, guaranteed money, to test the free agent market. Didn't really get what he was expecting. However, the Orioles still offered him $11 million, which was pretty good. And then at the end of the day, he backed out of that, or whatever happened. Maybe the reports were wrong, the media jumped the gun, but ultimately he settled for, I think it was like $8 or $9 million from the Cubs, the team that he turned $15 million, $15.8 million down. So anyway, this guy is just nuts. He's a great player. I would love to have him, but apparently he's not the best at math. So whatever. And then more recently, they signed Pedro Alvarez just this week, and I'm excited about that. It's an interesting thing. He totally fits what they do. I can't stand the style of baseball the Orioles play. I'd much rather have them play the quote-unquote small ball, lead off double, get the guy over by hitting it to the right side of the infield, but they just don't do that. They strike out a lot. They don't walk a ton. They don't steal a ton of bases, but you know what they do? They hit home runs. So this guy is perfect fit for that. If that's really what you're trying to teach everybody else, have at it, dude. I read an article earlier after the signing that was talking about how they're going to be basically a beer league softball team because of the fact that he's not that great defensively, and they kind of lumped Mark Trumbo in with that, another recent Orioles signing, and then they even said like Chris Davis wasn't good defensively, which I don't agree with, but whatever. I just thought it was funny to read that because whoever wrote the article was on Yahoo Sports, clearly did not do their homework. It's basically the same Orioles team that set a record, an MLB record, for fewest errors in a season. It's like 7 of the 9 starters are still left over from that team from a couple of years back. So, yeah, maybe they weren't as good defensively last year as the year before, but it's still a very good defensive team. And you know what? They're going to hit a lot of home runs. So there'll be some wins like 10-2 games and some losses 10-2 games. I guess I'm okay with that because ultimately you watch like the first 4 or 5 innings, and if it gets to be a blowout, you turn it off. It's fantastic. It saves you time. And I'm saying that as like the biggest Orioles fan there is. So anyway, let's talk about Camden Yards Lego project. What I want to do for the first video is kind of the opposite of what I did at the end of last year. I'm going to go ahead and set it up from scratch right out of the box, but I'm not going to bore you with talking because I guess I already did that by talking for the last 10 minutes or so, 5 minutes or so. I'm going to speed it up for you. We'll get it all on the table, literally, and then I'll check back in once that's done. All right, so hang in there. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Not real time. Real time will probably be like a minute. Alright, so there you have it. Got a few minor adjustments to make. I noticed a couple pieces broke off somehow in the winter, even though they were stored. And I'll do some stuff with the players, get them looking like they're ready to play some ball. But for the most part, I would say it's 95% back to the way it was, maybe even 99% back to the way it was before I packed it up in October. So I've got one more little special treat I wanted to do related to the fact that it's going to be opening day soon. I found a picture online of Camden Yards and how they roll out the orange carpet for the players on opening day, and it just so happens I found a perfect piece last time I was at Pick-a-Brick. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll check back in another 30 seconds. So I don't even know if the camera was just picking up what I did there, but you could see I laid out some 2x2 bright orange tiles. The idea here, like I said, is roll out the orange carpet. The Orioles do this on opening day. They get a carpet going from center field. It's supposed to go to second base, but I kind of ran out of tiles. And then they do another one from the dugout to the first baseline. Basically, the players will hide behind a little curtain, and then when their name is called, they run out onto the field here, or they run out from the dugout, starting lineup. It's an opening day feature, so I don't know, I like the way that looks. So I'm going to keep it like that till after opening day. Then I'll add the players back onto the field, and we will be ready to play ball in 2016.